All right, so as you're working on these hands-on projects, you need to get into MindTap to get to the materials, right? So, or have the physical book. That's the other way to get to these hands-on projects. I'm kind of showing you how to navigate to it. So we're going into Module 2. You would read Module 2 and go through all the materials. And usually when you open it up, you land on this kind of like an index page with all the links to all the parts of the page, talking about all the same stuff we just covered, right? In painstaking detail. You notice at the very end, there are the hands-on project. That's where you actually find them, right? So when I say, do the hands-on project from, module 2 or chapter 2, that's where you go. So here we are. The projects are numbered, right? So this is the first one that's assigned, and you'll notice that it's basically a step-by-step. Do this, do this, do this, and then sometimes you will be asked questions. And that you'll answer, right? And all of this is really intended to get you kind of connected up to all the stuff that, as like industry people would kind of already know. Like, hey, we go to this website, here it is, this is what it's about. So this site, the first one that we're looking at is the CVE site. And it says common vulnerabilities and exposures, right? So that's what the site's about. There's a link here. I do already have the link open up top there, but you just follow the link and you end up on this website, right? And so part of the process of doing the homework, and I just want to kind of go back to the instructions here, it says, please follow the steps in your textbook to complete the project. Document your progress by screen printing the activity along the way. Answer all the questions in complete sentences as best you can, right? And I'm not like too much of a stickler on that. Okay, fair word of warning. We do have some of our instructors that are real sticklers about grammar, spelling, and all that stuff. I'm kind of not, I mean, if it's like really horrible, I'll say something, right? But generally, I'm looking to see that you did it and you understand and you get it, right? I'm going to show you the process of how I would complete this, and I hope that you take that to heart. I would do this as either a Word document or a Google Doc, right? So you can pick whatever one works better for you. So here I am creating a blank document. I would call it Hands-on Project 2-1, and you can turn that into a title if you wish, or make it bold or whatever. And then, part of this is like showing screenshots of like what you're doing. All right, so how do you do a screenshot? And I don't want to make the naive assumption that everybody knows how to do this, because the reality is I probably have at least a couple, 2, 3 of you that have never done this before. Or if you have done it before, the way that you do it is you hit print screen, which I don't want you to do, right? Here's the why. If you do a print screen, it captures the whole screen, and that's not often what I need to see. It's kind of inefficient. There's a tool built into Windows called the snipping tool. In Windows 10, you have this tool, but you also have one called Snip and Sketch, which has become the new snipping tool in Windows 11. So Snip and Sketch from Windows 10 is now the snipping tool in Windows 11. Basically, it's the same tool, right? Usually the interface comes up, and it comes up as a small little panel. Right now I had a little capture that I did from my previous class. And you just basically, you hit the new button, and then you get the crosshairs, you click, you drag, you highlight, and there's your screen capture. Like, you're just showing the stuff. Now, this is not appropriate to what I was just doing, but if you're on the CVE website, show me that you got there. All right, let's, I'll bring up the snipping tool, and you see I just go to start and start typing snip, and it just comes up. There's the normal mode for it, by the way. I'm not going to get into all the operations of it, because I think just clicking new and doing the crosshairs is about all you need. But just show me that you got there, so maybe that's good, right? Now, a lot of people will take the time and effort to save all the files. Don't do that, folks. Waste, it's just a waste, right? Just hit the copy button, go to your Word doc or Google Doc, and paste, right? There you are on the website, so that could be, if you want to number, you could even number step 1, whatever. Then it's going to have you go, what's our next instruction here? Click about CVE, and it gives a brief overview about CVE, and then in your own words, how would you describe it? How does it work? What advantages does it provide? Now, if you want to really be a stickler about this, you can go in here and you could screenshot this, right? You could watch the video, you could read, whatever. Ultimately, what I'm really looking for is the response. So at this point, what I would do, if I were you, right, is I would say, well, that's bullet number or question number 4. So I might, let's say number 4, I think that, whatever, blah, 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 right? Type your answers in, complete sentences that make sense, and then move on. At some point, you might be asked, well, click on this and pull up a chart. Wherever there's a significant visual step or thing happening, that's when you do the screenshot. It really is kind of a judgment call, real frankly. Ultimately, I'm looking at you went to the website, you explored it, you kind of got the information, and you can demonstrate that you did it. Some people will take this way too far and get way too detailed, so I expect that. And then some people will barely do anything, and I don't appreciate that. I just want a kind of a fair balance. You don't have to document every single step, but the key steps, you'll know when they're key steps, right? Here, answering the questions are important. All right, so what does it say? Let's actually do some of this now, right? So we went to the about, and it says, the mission is to identify, define, and catalog publicly disclosed cybersecurity vulnerabilities. There is one CVE record for each vulnerability in the catalog. They're discovered and then assigned and published by organizations from around the world that have partnered with the program. And a lot of companies do this. A lot of big companies partner here and share their information. Now, you'll notice that they have, entire sections here and videos. And you know what? I think a lot of these are worth watching, but you also have to make kind of a practical judgment call here, right? Hey, if you're a full-time student and you're working and you have like all these readings you have to do and all this homework you have to do and all these videos you have to watch, you kind of do a little bit of a judgment call. Some handy tips, right? You're watching like one of these videos.
And welcome to We Speak CVE.
I am muting it. YouTube has this wonderful feature that if you go to the settings tab, and a lot of you probably already know this, you can increase the playback speed of the video. And you should do that with my lecture videos, by the way. So you can bump up the speed, so normal speed, or you can bump it up a few clicks. And then, okay, now let's
Publicly disclosed cybersecurity vulnerabilities.
Hi, and welcome to We Speak CVE, a brand new...
Okay, it's a little bit faster. The net effect is you are getting through it faster, right? In some cases, you might be able to just kind of read the subtext here to get the information. What I will bet that some of you will find is you'll watch some of these and you'll just watch the whole thing because it's actually that kind of interesting. Other ones you're going to play it and you're going to be like, yeah, whatever, next. It is important to know, though, that some of these are probably a little more pertinent than the other. I don't expect that you guys are going to go through all of these, but the information is there for the taking, right? And that's really one of the grand takeaways here is that information. So how would we answer the questions? Let's go back to that. How would you describe CVE? We already kind of talked about what it does. So what is CVE? Don't all answer at once.
Description of vulnerabilities.
Yeah, it is, right? But it's kind of like ones that people are willing to publicly share, right? Like, right. We got hacked. This is how we got hacked. Here's the information so you guys don't get hacked too. Right, so you guys feeling where I'm coming from? And what advantages does it provide it? Well, basically it creates a database of common attacks that you can refer to make sure you don't get attacked the same way yourself, or to see if the attack that you're having right now is that and how to fix it. That's why it's important. So that's the answer to the first one. All right. All right. Point 2 about, click FAQs, and who's behind it, who owns it, how is it used. So let's take a look at that part of it. All right. So let's go back to. Okay, so we've got to go back to the main site, about FAQs. All right, so we know what the mission is. right? Who owns it? That's a really good question. And interesting. No, CVE is not a database. All right. So sorry if I misled you there. So don't use that as your answer. Okay, is publicly known. I'm trying to figure out who's the owner of this. Here we go. It's this corporation. All right. Notice that also the CVE is sponsored by the Department of Homeland Security. That's pretty huge. The Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, that's also pretty huge. So they got some heavyweight stuff behind them. Notice that, you know, they tell you like these agencies also fund certain things. So they kind of give you a little bit of a track, you know. So I think this is kind of important stuff to know. I don't expect you to memorize it, but, you know, answer the questions is basically what it comes down to. I'm trying to think of like other key steps here. All right, so they actually go, scroll down to CVE entries, and I don't know if that is requests, records, the list. Somewhere here they have entries. Maybe I passed it. Let's do a search. Oh, maybe not on this page. All right, but the entire point really becomes the process of doing it. And I want you to notice here, this takes you to Twitter. So if you're a Twitter person, you know, so I know a lot of you might not be, and I say definitely not now to that. But they also put out notifications. So like if you don't want to like go to their website to get the notifications, they have a number of different ways where you can get a feed. One thing that's really interesting about Twitter as a platform, and I'm kind of throwing this out there, is the immediacy of the information, right? This is not like the platform where you do your TikTok videos or your Instagram photos or, you know, your Facebook friends or liking or whatever. Twitter is more of, although it can kind of be used that way, when things go down in society, and this is just kind of a helpful tip, like when we had the pandemic and all the protests were starting, right? And you guys, you know, depending on like where you were in Kenosha, you guys probably saw some stuff there, and certainly here where I live in Milwaukee, I live kind of in the central city, we had a lot of activity, you know, protests going right down the street, a block away from my house, you know, that kind of thing. And I would come to Twitter. My wife's like, why are you checking Twitter for information? Facebook's better. I'm like, no, it's not. Check this out. And then I could do like a filtered search for Milwaukee protests, and every like 5-10 seconds somebody's posting a video or a link, or hey, the marchers are over here and they're setting something on fire over there, and you know, and it was like instantaneous, you know. And often this becomes a really excellent like live news source that, but for most intents and purposes, is unfiltered. Now, what Elon Musk did to it, I don't know, but still, the platform has that aspect to it. And if you are a Twitter person and whatever, you don't even have to have an account technically to look at their stuff, as you can see. But notice, right? I just want you to look at some of the stuff that they're posting here. I don't see anything that maybe, well, all right. Well, this one talks about Trend Micro. What does Trend Micro do as a company? Does anybody know what like their #1 software product is? Antivirus software, right? Yeah, thank you, Andrew. So like you're kind of in the know there, but it looks like they have like some sort of server software. Yeah, so I mean, this is like kind of like technical, like geek stuff, and then look what it does is it takes you to the posting on the CVE site where you can actually read about it. They have references, et cetera, et cetera. This might not be the best of examples, but I mean, how do security people get in the know on this stuff? I mean, it is this kind of thing. There are people that are paid full-time wages to monitor this type of stuff, by the way, when it, in big companies that are in cybersecurity areas. So another interesting thing is you notice that this is kind of a very generic web page looking kind of thing. You can also, and I know they've been working on this for a while, right? They're starting to do what we call JSON feeds. So in other words, that's kind of JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, by the way, which is just a way to package up data for transmission. And then you can take that data, read it into any application that you want, and visualize it, put it in a database, yada, yada, yada. So it's kind of interesting that they're kind of moving to that format. It's kind of becoming the new universal web delivery format for data and a lot of applications. So kind of an interesting overview. Folks, I know that I'm not really totally completing the homework like I thought I would. I do want you to do some of this work, but you notice it really isn't a lot of stuff to do. And they do give you a time estimate. So they say about 20 minutes to do it. If you guys are smart, you're kind of doing some of this as we go and kind of setting it up. When you're all done with it, with your screenshots and answering the questions, save the file. I have no naming conventions for files, so you don't have to put your name on it or anything weird like that. And then submit it to Blackboard. All you have to do is very simply, and I'm doing this for the assumption that there's probably a couple new people here that have never been at Gateway. You click on the assignment title, and then what you do is you would attach your Word file here. So you could either click Browse Local Files. My favorite usually is to just bring up like a file window, and I don't have one. I just want a generic document here. Like I'll just go to my G drive here, and maybe I'll just pull up my syllabus, and you can just take your document and just drag it and drop it into that dotted box, or use the Browse Local Files to find it, click and attach it. It could be an Excel file too, whatever. If you want to type some comments, you can do that here, right? I do read those, and then just simply hit submit. And then I will see it on my end and grade it. If you guys are noticing, I did adjust all the due dates. So you guys have a little breathing space right now, right? And so I was talking with Andrew a little earlier. We were working through some other issues, and I originally had some stuff set for Friday and some stuff, I forget what it was set for. And then I decided, you know what? I'm just going to give you guys until basically after next class. So you still have next class to ask questions if needed. And I really I'm not a stickler for the due date. So if it's the day after or whatever, but it gives you a lot more time to do it, think about it, read. But I want you guys really strongly, and I'm going to repeat this, to get into the pattern of trying to get the readings done in advance. And I'm going to kind of do a poll. And see, most of you are really quiet here, and it makes me uncomfortable, frankly. I can't see your faces. You're not talking. You're not chatting. Whatever. I do appreciate the interactivity. So if we ever are in the classroom, obviously I see your faces. But if we're online, we miss that piece, right? But if I get the sense that you guys are in the know, and how will I know that? I might do what I used to do, like in our Python class, Becky. I might start like Kahooting you guys. And if you guys are familiar with what Kahoot is, it's basically kind of like an online screen quiz. But what I'll do is I'll pull topics from the chapter readings and ask them. It's kind of a primitive way to lecture. And then whoever wins the Kahoot will have extra credit points on the table that they can earn any given night. So reading will have its rewards. The Kahoots will happen at the beginning of every class session, not like 20 minutes in, but right when the class starts. So encouragement to be there on time as well. All right, I'm going to end the recording here.